Hello, I'm Erica McCay, and I'm a creative director for Valtech Themed Entertainment Studio, working on interactive experiences and show writing for walk-around characters. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Deana.
Hi, Erica. Nice to meet you.
Deana, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, currently I'm an Australian lady living in Abu Dhabi in one of the most amazing regions of the world at the moment. I have been born and bred in theme parks. I think my first job was when I was 19 in Australia, where let me say, without breaking that third wall, a very good friend of Tweety Bird, if I just say that nicely. He and I got on very well, and of course, it's safe to say that it's certainly I've been infected with the theme park industry, and here I am today as the general manager of one of the most amazing parks in the world.
It's so wonderful to see that progression. I just really love how so many people in this industry blossom and find the places and move up through it. So what is really happening in the industry? What has been the success story within your company, within what you are seeing and what your focuses are?
Yeah, I think here in the region of the UAE in particular, we are one of the fastest growing areas I think I have ever had the pleasure to be in. If you think about Australia, my home country, things will take time and we progress slowly. But here, I think with the vision of the leaders of this country and the vision of our own morale executives, they are so ready for the next step and so willing to support in all of our crazy ideas that we bring to the table. So it's a super exciting time, especially here in this region and for our parks. So yeah, I think it's the right place at the right time now, and it's really exciting to be here and watch the growth of the industry just within this tiny small part of the world that we're in.
That's so cool. At Valtech, we're finding this growth within the way that we have interactive experiences piece into anything throughout the world. So when we were working on Super Nintendo World in Japan, it was very much how do we turn those individual interactions the guest has into a full connected experience, let them track what they've done, and have it influence what they do next. And I think that just really applies so much in the industry of people want that personalization, but not personalization based on a data sheet of metrics about them. They want it based on what they've done, why it matters that they were there. And it's really, really cool to see how much is exploding over in your, or is happening over in your area for people being able to experience things in new ways. So what would you say are some top trends that you're finding in the industry?
Yeah, if we look around at the moment, I mean, we've always had technology-based trends. We've had the VRs and the ARs, and we have had some in our park as well. And we are certainly looking into to kind of reinventing some of those areas as well. But yes, technology 100%. But I think one of the you just mentioned Nintendo World. Gamification is massive right now, and for the points that you just mentioned, if you can personalize your guests' journey within the park, if they can be in control of some of the experiences that we're doing, I think that's great. And I think it's super exciting because then we can continue to gather that data and everything that you also mentioned to keep developing. So gamification is a really cool trend that I'm seeing at the moment that is wonderful. I think the other thing that we want to talk about is when we tend to look at certain attractions, and yes, we do as we grow and develop certain single attractions within the park. But the other thing that I'm really enjoying seeing is how the immersive world is going beyond just an attraction. I mean, if Harry Potter World is the example, that you're not just going for the one ride, but you are going for the entire environment, and that is something that I think we're starting to see more and more in the industry, and it needs to be part of the planning in the future.
That's one of my absolute favorite parts of theme parks and the trends today is you spend 2 to 5 minutes in an attraction and it's amazing and impactful and people think to go to a theme park for the rides, but you spend hours in themed lands really getting immersed into the IP, and every moment that the guest is spending eating, shopping, just sitting and enjoying the view, those are all chances to tell the story and to be immersed in that world, and we should utilize every single one of them. So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah.
So thinking of the future beyond current trends and how, well, everything is changing so much right now with the popularity of AI, but just where do you see the industry going and the way that we create within the industry?
Look, I think it's inevitable. We're going to be using it. We will be using it. We have to use it. It is the way of the future. And I think that there are, once again, there are various ways to do this. There is we've used it for a while, I guess, if you think in one way or form with video games or, different things like that. But, and what it does is it creates that dynamic environment, which is exactly what we were just talking about. But I think with AI, what it can assist in more and more for us is the immersiveness, the interactiveness. So now we're hearing what guests, are wanting and saying, the personalization, but even the safety, we'll use it in rides and attractions. But I think, AI can also speak in other areas of our business, the onboarding, the pre-visit, everything like that. The personalization can start from the very beginning. So yes, I think AI is here, and I think theme parks, I think we've only just scratched the surface. There are many ways that we can do it. We currently have systems in our parks within our rides and attractions that speak to our command centers, but now we want them to be able to speak to the chatbots and be able to so that the guests have real-time information. And then so it's more than just a ride and attraction. I think it is the whole guest journey that it will become part of without even knowing it, from pre-visit to post-visit. I think it's going to be amazing. And we're thankful that we've got a team of people that are so passionate about it, here in Morale, that are really like immersion specialists, we call them, so that they are doing that whole guest journey project for us, so that we can really, really, really capture what that guest needs.
Yeah, it's so important to think of the entire guest experience, because if they have a poor pre-visit, that will change
Determines the rest. Yes,
the experience. Yeah. I think what's fascinating about technology in our industry is so much of the experiences that we create will have the highest, newest, shiniest technology right next to the 100-plus-year-old traditional practical magic. So I kind of don't see that changing. I think that it's just the way that we use these tools. And if we always ask the question of why and what is the story and the reason that we're using this and the guest experience that we want to have, and then what are the right tools to do it, there's a lot of making sure that we're being conscious about, if we get information, if AI generates something, that it is not pulling from biased sources and all of those parts. But if we can learn and use tools and then use them properly, that's every time there is a new tool, that is the way that I think that we'll be approaching it. So
yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, exactly what you said, we have the perfect example here in the park. Our guest, we are the first Ferrari-inspired theme park in the world. It is the one place that you can come and still see firsthand, an original Ferrari car. So, holograms are great, robotics are great. There are elements and tools that we can certainly use in park as an interactivity, but there's nothing beats just seeing that vintage Ferrari. When the F40 was here in our Galleria, the amount of people, we became one of our highest attractions, from a throughput standpoint, because they wanted to see that real, tangible, Ferrari. So you're right, there is a mixture of both when it comes to history and legacy, I guess, in our behalf, here at Ferrari. So you do need the both, but you need to find that balance and know your guest mix, know who they are, to see what, you're developing for the future.
Yeah. And it's that authenticity. I've heard amazing things. I want to go there someday.
Can't wait to have you.
But that's the wish fulfillment. If you're going to go to a park about Ferrari, you want to see the real cars because you're into cars. You're into that experience of being a driver, or the wish fulfillment of maybe someday I could drive this vehicle. And so that's exactly what we're talking about, that balance of the real, tangible, and the high tech. So
Yeah, so our brand campaign is feel that Ferrari feeling, and how do people feel that Ferrari feeling? In various ways. Not one person is the same. So we have to make sure that we provide, those experiences more than anything else to be able to cater for all of our guests.
yeah, absolutely. The answer might not be the vehicle itself, it might be speed.
Yeah.
So what would you say are the biggest challenges that you're facing in your business right now?
I think challenges are always opportunities. So I want to always preface this. When we talk about the challenges, I think they're awesome opportunities for us to grow and develop. One of the ones we're seeing now is technology. To me, it's well, maybe it's just my age coming out here, but technology changes seriously at the rate so fast at the moment. So you might be developing and takes time and investment to prepare, the rides and the attractions and the experiences in the park, and then all of a sudden it kind of changes. So we have to keep one step ahead, all the time, and look for that next kind of value for the. So that's a challenge, is to make sure that we are on the mark and looking in the future. I think the other challenge for us personally, if I talk about a theme park, is that, as I mentioned, this region is growing so quickly. So we are in the midst of one of the most amazing times here in the GCC. So we need to make sure that we stay ahead. And we continue to be that forerunner in the business. We were one of the first here in the region as a park. And again, I thank the team that way back then, when they were in the creative team, that thought that Ferrari World Abu Dhabi was a great idea, and we were one of the first architecturally, and everything about our park is so unique. So we have to keep that, and as the region is growing and growing, but it only fuels, adds fuels to us to be able to keep going and growing. So yes, I think they're the two biggest challenges at the moment is the growth, but it's a great challenge to have.
Oh,
What
yeah.
an awesome challenge to have, that the industry is growing. So yeah.
I think something that goes kind of hand in hand with that, and inspired by your friends with Tweety Bird history, is performers and live actors and all of the humans that are inside of these experiences, and how to balance those with the new technology, with having shows and attractions more automated, and kind of speaking more about those walk around areas and the lands that people might spend time in. And do you see maybe even, I know this is kind of on the challenge topic, but also in the potential of, well, how we can leverage live actors and performers going forward as we advance everything around them?
We absolutely can, and we should. We are in an industry that connects people. So if we don't have people to connect with, I'm not quite sure. We'll certainly miss the mark. So I absolutely agree with you. I advocate entertainment in every way, shape, and form. Now, our park, with the theme of Ferrari and the legacy that they have left, lends to some technology, just rightly because of our story and our position within the world. But 100%, I agree with you. You have to have that connection to a person. Even if you think about our rides and attractions, what's on the inside is great, but our ride attendants are the ones that set up the story, continue with the story, sell the story, be part of the story with you. They have to be, look, I get goosebumps as I talk about our colleagues. They have to be right there. So then we have to develop those skills within them at the same time. So it has to be a balance, Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, 100%.
Yeah. When I was working on Wizarding World of Harry Potter, when I worked for Universal, it was amazing how, as we created the interactive wands and the spells that you could cast within Harry Potter, you set them up, you put the iconic spells, you put magic that will happen from them, and people might wander up and cast those spells on their own because they have the map. But it's when there's the attendants that are next to the locations where you can cast spells, encouraging guests, getting them to try it again. And it is so much more fulfilling to have that champion as you're casting them, because if you get it wrong a couple times, it's almost better because you've earned your right to be a wizard when you get it correct. And really just having those, even though they are operations attendants, they're not trained performers, they really take in ownership of the role, they learn the lore, and they guide the guests and leave a memorable impression on them. And it's just every single person along the way makes such a huge impact on their experience.
Yeah, and that was actually a huge part of our development of Mission Ferrari. Yes, we have this amazing ride system that is like no other. Yes, we have this technology that is, like no other, and I would love to, share more about that with you. But what I love is, often I go out into the park and I stand at the exit. And I just like to see the people's reaction and how they've done it. And when I see our colleagues say, well done, you survived the mission, we could not have done it without you, you watch their little chests rise and they're like, oh, I was just a part of that. I just helped, Ferrari saved that car. And again, it's my favorite part, to see that interaction between the people, but also for the guest to feel like they have been part of the entire story. Well, I mean, that's the perfect result that we're looking for in any of our attractions.
Yeah. Well, maybe could you tell me a little bit more about the innovations?
Sure. So, I mean, in a summary, if I put it in a quick summary, Mission Ferrari is definitely one of the state-of-the-art roller coasters. Here in our park, we have numerous roller coasters, and we have fantastic ones. We have fast ones. We have the fastest one. We have the tallest, inverted loop. We have the fastest incline in Flying Aces, and we have some phenomenal roller coasters. So I think when the creative team went back, if I go back a number of years to say, okay, what's next for Ferrari World Abu Dhabi, it was this level of immersion that was discussed right from the beginning in regards to this attraction. So, we have top-notch technology, that immerses you from the start to the finish. You're on an adventure like no other. I mean, tell me, who doesn't want to be a secret agent for Ferrari? I mean, even that's just cool, right? Put your suit on and you're sort of, at the minute you walk in there. And the ride itself is phenomenal. We have, as I said, top-notch technology. We have the wonderful projectors. We have the AV that's in the screen. So when you sit in the car, you have the auditory level of immersion, then you have the visual level of immersion, and then you have the actual ride experience itself, which is, first of its kind in the world. There is one section in the ride that you are surrounded by a 230-degree screen at an angle that is, there is no other way but being immersed in that story, straight away. But as I mentioned before, even beyond the ride systems and the track experience and how it all molds together, it is that moment that before you even get there, you walk up to the ride box. Our secret agent, the Ferrari World secret agent recruitment officer, is there to say, "Poof, you look like the person that could help us out." You walk into the pre-show, the soundtrack starts. It always gives me little goosebumps on my hands. As soon as that music, then you walk into the queue line. And the first laser beam that hits your face, you kind of realize, okay, I need to be really stepping up my game here and be ready to be part of the ride and attraction. And then you experience the ride itself. So yes, we have the most cutting edge technology, and we're thankful for that too. But it's the whole, I think, envelope of the ride from the beginning to the end is what makes this ride like no other.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to be able to go on that. It reminded me of a trend while you were talking about the secret agent and this idea of being recruited to do something. A trend that I'm seeing, especially with the recent opening of Illumination's Villain Con Minion Blast, which is an attraction at Universal Orlando. The guests are challenged with becoming the greatest villain and trying to join the Vicious Six. And you could just do the attraction and have that be the story arc. But if you use the Universal mobile app, you're actually able to sync your player profile with your blaster, track everything you've done, and you actually earn new things that you can apply to your blaster to customize it and make it even better to get you a higher score, become a greater villain, and really carry on that story through every single time that you visit the attraction. And I think that is a really cool way to bring personalization of, you can just experience the base layer of this and it doesn't detract in any way if you don't want to download a mobile app. But if you do want to carry that with you, improve each time, and really embrace your villainous self over and over again, you have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
it's like what we said before, to have the guest in control of some of things, this is exciting. If I'm a family of 4, I may not be the huge thrill seeker in my family, but my son might be the massive, thrill seeker. So now it's a family environment that you have control over that experience. I think this is where we need to go and where it is going and the industry is moving. And I think that's the most exciting part about it. It is the personalization, but it's the control that I can have to make that personalization happen.
Oh yeah, and that our whole group has different ways to experience everything, and a way that we all get the experience that we want out of it, and we're there for the people that we love.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any final thoughts that you want to talk about today?
No, I think for me, I'm so excited. Having an entertainment background, this immersion level of the business is probably what I'm most passionate about. So I said, yes, we have our rides and attractions, but it's not just for that as well. It's for our food and beverage. It's for our retail. It's for everything. We don't sell shirts. We don't sell burgers. We sell memories. We have to make sure that we are always selling memories in everything we do. So I think some of these new trends that we've talked about and how we can personalize and make, have the guest in control can be cross-checked across the entire business. And I think we've only just scraped the surface. So, I mean, that's so exciting, right? It's super exciting. Mission Ferrari is just the start. We have some, as I said, amazing rides and attractions here. But this took us to the next level, and we wanted to do it. We wanted that to be the case, and this is now the new standard for us. So we are moving forward, and I mean there's some amazing innovation ideas. And as I said, we've got immersion specialists that are helping us, greatly, and we have the support of our executive teams to say let's move, let's go, which is always a bonus.
Yeah,
but yes, I could keep talking about Mission Ferrari, but I'd love you to come over. Come and be our secret agent, huh?
Oh, yes, someday, absolutely. Well, Deana, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everybody watching. This is such an exciting festival, and just please enjoy all of everything that's coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello. Welcome to the Immersive Attractions panel. So excited to be talking with Dan today, Chief Operating Officer of Area 15. I'm Erica McCay. I'm Creative Director at Valtech Themed Entertainment Studio. I work on interactive experiences and show writing for the way that guests move through a physical space, but then our development team does the technical parts behind the scene to make the magic come to life where they don't realize what's happening in the background. So Dan, I'll throw it over to you.
Hi, how are you? So yes, I'm Dan Pelson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Area 15. We're an immersive entertainment district in the heart of Las Vegas. We're about just shy of 300,000 square feet of mind-blowing things to do and to see and to listen to and to eat and to drink, of course, because it is Las Vegas. And yeah, we're excited to be here.
So Area 15 has been having huge success, and there's some really exciting announcements that even have just recently come out in the last few months. What have you learned about what guests want from an immersive attraction?
Well, it's interesting because we have a pretty broad array of what can be considered immersive attractions. We have everything from, as an anchor tenant, we have Meow Wolf's Omega Mart, which is clearly an immersive attraction, to Asylum Arcade, which is a retro arcade that we own and operate. And then there's, dozens of other things within the building and even outside of the building to do there, but it's all really tied together. And I think what we've really, we always believed was the case and have proven to be true is that what people are really looking for is a story. They want an underlying story to what's going on. It's not just about weird, or it's not just about, hey, I've never seen that before. If you want them to come back, there has to be some connective tissue to everything that's going on within the four walls, so to speak. And that's something that we think is becoming really glaringly critical. So, I'd like to sort of compare it to, for those of us who were around, Internet 1.0. There were a bunch of ideas thrown out there, but if they weren't deep, those companies, even with great leaders and great management and great ideas, wouldn't survive. And now that we're, kind of deep into it, Area 15 just celebrated our third anniversary. So we're like, granddaddies of this, I guess. But we're really seeing the importance of storytelling. So that's something that we look for in partnerships. That IP value is really, really important. And then all the other things, kind of like what you were discussing, Erica, in terms of Valtech, how to make it work is really meant to be kind of hidden, right? Those concepts that are kind of tech first and story second, they just tend to not do as well. There's an audience for that as well, but the broader audience, the masses, it's no different from what they were looking for probably in the 1800s or 1900s or whatever it is. They're looking for great stories, something that connects with them, something that touches a nerve, and we're just doing it, and our partners are doing it in new ways. But if it doesn't have an underlying story, it tends to not have the depth, and we think that's really critical and something that has been proven now.
I could not agree more with everything that you just said. Story is really the heart, and I think that the big shift is whose story and how does it matter that I was a part of that story. And so in some experiences, it might be that as the guest, it is your story and everything revolves around a personalized experience, but there's still appetite for it being following another character's story and being a part of that world. But it's always a question of what is my role as a guest and how does it matter that I was here, which is something huge that we look at and we work on, even if it is a mobile app to be able to customize your blaster as you're going into an attraction, like on Illumination's Villain Con Minion Blast that just opened a little bit ago. Yeah. And it's just how are you part of this story? And you can do different layers. So you can just play that game and not even use the mobile app, or you can go deeper, unlock things, and personalize. But that's an extreme example in the game direction. And there's so much to this that isn't actually a game. Like working on Super Nintendo World, which is game-based, I got a huge glimpse into the world of players, but also the non-players that come along with them, the families, the friends. They just want that iconic moment of punching a question block, and they don't really care about what's going to happen after that. And so you have to have that variety. I think one of the best examples is Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser, and how it was able to take people of all levels of interest in playing, from observers all the way to the deep divers. And really making that variety of experience is where we're going to see all of the family groups and the friend groups coming together for a shared experience, because everyone experiences a story in a different way.
That's exactly right. And I think it's, there's a big difference between personalization and actually immersion into the story. And personalization, where it's like you can pick some, your avatar and those kind of things, that's important too. But it's really the first step. If you're able to actually choose how you get immersed into the experience or the story or whatever it may be, that is just empowering. And we live in a world where the consumer is empowered. They want to have control. They want to be able to make decisions. It doesn't mean they want to always go deep, to your point. Some do, some don't. So if you have the ability to allow your guest or your customer or your player or whoever it is, however you want to describe them, to make those decisions without kind of forcing those decisions about them, but have it happen naturally, you're in very good shape, right? Because some do want to go deep. I mean, again, looking at Omega Mart at Meow Wolf's Omega Mart at Area 15, some people just want to walk through and see incredible objects of art, right? They just want to see what's going on. Others will spend hours and hours there and then come back again and again because they're getting deep into the story and they see themselves as part of it. And both make for a successful business model. But it's enabling your consumer to be able to make those choices is really important.
Yeah, it's all about making those opportunities. And that kind of gets into our next topic of looking at the top trends coming into the industry and the innovations that we're seeing, especially with all of the great submissions for the Blooloop Innovations Contest. So thinking of these trends and kind of furthering them, what are some other things that you have been seeing in your work?
Well, I mean, so we're seeing a lot of trends. Obviously, there's always trends with respect to technology. It continually evolves. Look at the Sphere here in Las Vegas. What they're doing in terms of sound and lighting is beyond state of the art. I guess I don't know if that's a term, but it's state of the art. It's really incredible. It's really redefining, particularly on the acoustic side, how a consumer can experience something that where the sound is such a critical element to it. So we're seeing lots in the tech space. We're seeing a lot happening with respect to tech, more in the sort of the XR or augmented reality space. Maybe not as much. I mean, there's plenty of VR out there, but a little less so focus on that. We see it more in terms of mixed reality, which we think is really interesting. However, for us, a big part of what we see in terms of trends are the business models. The throughput questions. How do you drive, the velocity that you need to make a business successful? And that's the maturing of the industry, right? Because this is a nascent stage that we're in right now in terms of true immersive and experiential. If you're looking at it in terms of the new wave of this, I'm not talking about amusement parks and theme parks and those kind of things that have been around for a long time and doing a great job and more popular now than ever. I mean, some results just came out from Six Flags, et cetera, and they're record numbers, right? So we know that those are working. Those are relatively traditional. But in this new space where it's not about just the biggest, fastest roller coaster as an experience, but something that you're immersing yourself into, we're seeing the innovation in a lot of ways happen on the business side of things. What does it mean to get throughput? What does a Wednesday at noon look like versus and these are kind of the boring parts, but these are the parts that make your business either survive or not. So they're boring. And of course, they're in some ways the most critical. What does a Wednesday at noon look like versus a Saturday at noon look like? And how do we support both financially? So it's a phenomenal experience for our guests regardless, but it also works from a business model perspective. So it's a balance of the technology with a lot of deep thinking about what are the business models, and you're going to see a lot of things just not succeed, and that's not good for any of us. We all want everything to succeed because all boats rise, but you're going to see a little bit, I think, of a shakeout over the next few years for those businesses that are not looking at how new innovation is coming into play. And then how that impacts your business model. The last thing I'll say, of course, and I think we're going to get a little bit more into it, is AI. AI, of course, is game changer in so many ways. And as someone who's been involved in technology for a long time, there's always some new buzzword or some new concept that comes around. And NFTs were really big. And when I looked at that, I said, I don't know where that's going to go. Like, I don't know how that's going to change our industry. And I don't think I was wrong about that. But then AI, which has been around for a long time, but when it gotten to this level, that was very clear to all of us. Winston Fisher, our CEO, and everyone, the creative team, and it's now being embedded in so many ways in terms of how we run our business and what our consumers see and so on. So a lot of the innovation is going to be driven by, I think, AI and in ways that might not be obvious. It may be behind the scenes, but we're leveraging it to be able to produce better experiences.
Well, I think that's the key, is that it's a tool, and we can't rely too heavily on any one tool, because the magic of what we create is we're an industry who create things for people, but it's because it's people that make it. It's the way that we infuse and distill everything that we have experienced as designers and technicians and everything into the craft of making these immersive attractions. Another huge trend that I really love that we're starting to get focused on is enticing all 5 senses, and really, and Area 15 does a great job of this, of bringing in that you can't just have something that is highly entertaining. You have to touch the entire experience of the people visiting. And some of that is in the moment, in the show, trying to get as many of those senses, really making sure that there is something visual and auditory at all times so that everyone can experience it, even if you don't have both of those senses available to you. But also understanding that taste and smell have a huge impact on the experience. If you think of really why we care about these stories, is they're all grounded in wish fulfillment. We have a desire to be a part of that world. And working on Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the first wish fulfillment that most people think of is becoming a wizard, but it's not the only one. Your wish fulfillment in that world could be to drink a butterbeer, and just being able to live in that life and have that moment accomplished. So it could be huge, like being able to fly. It could be tiny, like just having that little moment that you remember from the fiction. So it's all about how do we make sure that there are amazing dining experiences, amazing ways to let every part of your time in that immersive attraction feel like it's a part of it, but not always overwhelming. So sometimes it's big moments of wow, sometimes it's little tiny moments to just soak in the environment and be part of a really immersive themed land. And
Yeah.
I just love how we're seeing a much higher balance of all five senses and not just going for visuals, which actually was a large focus for a long time.
I would agree. And the one thing I would also add to that, which is something that often gets neglected, is the human interaction, particularly with the staff and the folks that are there to support an experience. A lot of times, I think those in this space are thinking, well, the tech and the story, I mean, those are all really critical. They're going to do the job, but there's almost inevitably a human interaction that has to occur, whether it's onboarding or obviously the performer, whatever it may be, or even if you're just talking about serving someone, a cheeseburger, something really rudimentary. That interaction is just as important and part of the experience as anything else. And you can kill a really fantastic, artistic, immersive, IP-driven environment with a poor human interaction as well. So I just like to point that out to folks, because again, it's blocking and tackling. It's hospitality. It's the hospitality business. And a lot of us don't think, meaning the industry, don't necessarily think of themselves that way. They think of themselves as, creative or tech leaders or whatever it is. But ultimately, this is such a personal, everything we're talking about, it's very personal for that consumer. And you don't want to have all this investment made in the technology and the art and the storytelling and the build out and the, all of these kind of things, and then have a bad day from one of your employees just destroy and kind of like, break that wall down because they, gave someone a sidelong glance or something. I know it's not typically what's discussed when we're talking about immersive experiences, but unless you are completely human free and there's very few that I've seen that requires 0 employees. Love to find that business model. Just kidding. We love our employees, but unless you have that business model, then that human interaction also has to be something that has to be taken to a new level.
I love that you brought that up, because it is such a huge part of it. And I'm a huge fan of immersive theater. And so like the first thing that I thought of, even on a larger scale, is like Renaissance fairs. When someone asks, do you want to play with MasterCard or Lady Visa? Like just the little silly nods.
Right.
But even with that, it's also the live actors and operators' ability to understand when to break story so that the guest has a better experience. Because sometimes forcing the story can actually make it worse. They're confused on where to go. The signs are all in a fake language, something that a live human is able to adapt on the fly and improvise with. And I think that because that is so intrinsic to immersive theater, but often in immersive attractions where you need a higher throughput, you can't have as many live actors. People think, well, that's not that's not our focus for this. We need to automate. And even if you're only going to have a few staff members, well, now those staff members are even more crucial to be a part of it, even if they're just creative operators instead of fully trained actors, and understanding how they can best fit and utilize their skills to just create that really great guest experience so that they feel like they were a part of the world at whatever level ended up making sense. But even if it is fully automated, people still have to figure out how to automate that. So if you are writing the lines for a branching narrative of perhaps a robot character that you're able to talk to, yes, there's not a live human there, but you have to think about all the different situations and all of the different nuances and how a guest might interact, and still probably have a human who is around to fill in those gaps if that doesn't quite fit the narrative or satisfy the need of that guest. So just
Exactly.
we're a people business. We're
Exactly.
people who create it, we're people who maintain it and bring it to life, and people who experience it. And we're all part of the same ecosystem, for sure.
That's right. And, you have to assume that there's going to be, I mean, this is all new, right? We're training our consumers to figure out how to navigate their way through these new immersive experiences. Part of the joy and wonder of it is that it is new, right? That's why, it's not the same old thing. I'm going to hit the roller coaster or go to a Broadway show or a baseball game. That's all experiential, right? But this new wave is really requires that we as an industry are easing our customers into it. And if you want critical mass, if you really want a wide audience and, a multi-generational, multicultural, all of these things to, make your P&L as effective as possible, you have to realize that people need to be educated. So it's very hard to do that without some level of human interaction, and that human interaction has to be, it has to be part of the story. It has to be so well, nuanced and built into the experience, and that's not easy to do because humans are harder to program, right? So
yeah, absolutely. One, we're always changing too. I mean, we're making immersive worlds, and they might be fictional, but they're worlds just like our real one. And everything grows and changes and adapts over time in the real world, and it should in a fictitious world as well. So it's actually that leads really well into our next topic of that can be a fun challenge. And what are some of the biggest challenges that you've been facing in your business?
Well, I mean, so as companies start to mature a little bit, and I know 3 years isn't maturity. I mean, we're continually growing and seeing those results. We're also just continually looking at how to constantly upgrade, update, change, evolve. That's part of the magic of experiential, and it's also part of the burden. This is not a, hey, let's get it to this level and then set and forget because we're done. Some parts of this world may work well or better than others in that respect. But for us at Area 15, there's a couple of things that we look at as challenges. One is, how do we continually keep that experience fresh? It's just a constant effort of just upgrading. It's got to be better. It's got to be different. It's got to be, and try things, right? And you can't be afraid to take creative risk. In fact, if you are afraid to take creative risk, you will fail. I mean, that's just a guarantee in this space. You have to take risks. That's a challenge. It's not cheap. That means you have to invest in it, CapEx and all these kind of things. But we think it's critical. So that's always a challenge. And the other thing that, is this might sound funny, but one of the things that we think is a challenge to the industry is, and this is typical for any new industry, there's going to be a lot of mediocrity out there too. And there's a lot of things that are going to be thrown out into the market. We see it, unfortunately, here in Las Vegas more often than we'd like to, because mediocrity doesn't help any of us, right? It's an industry that is emerging, and the more we believe, at least, the more successful we are and our competitive landscape is, then the more people will start to embrace and get themselves involved with immersive and experiential and all these things. But there's a lot of folks out there that say, oh, that thing's working, let's just try this, but we'll do it cheap. And we'll just kind of rip off the concept, and we'll stick it over here at this, this big building, and hope that people come. And it's still so new that those experiences will be the first experiences for many people. And what we fear, and one of the challenges, how do you tell people that that's not really what the promise of experiential entertainment is? That was just a somewhat lame attempt to be a copycat. And look, there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing any of us can do about it. But it's definitely part of something that we all as an industry have to look at and do our best to help each other. I mean, really, we'll all succeed if we're just changing the landscape of entertainment. That's a good thing. And for innovators, and most of the folks probably following along here are innovators, That's important to try to weed out the mediocrity and focus on the superior experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big challenge that we also face, especially when we're striving for much better and deeper experiences, is the length of time that it takes to complete these projects. It takes hundreds of people to be able to put each of these together. And through the course of that, you might be on something for 4 or 5 years. The industry will change, the new advances in technology, and being able to adapt quickly within the overall project cycle is super important. Something that I've really loved in my job is getting to work in a playtesting environment. And sometimes people think of playtesting as just at the end to prove that you were right or to prove that it works. But really, playtesting is all the way from the very beginning. It's that first idea you have and grabbing that scrap of paper and a highlighter and gathering some people around and giving them the premise of what they should be doing and answering those questions quickly so you can fail fast and iterate and move on, but then doing it through the entire project cycle. And this doesn't have to just be for interactivity. It's continuously questioning, what are we making? Why are we making it? And how can we best utilize every discipline? How can we meet all of the different needs from creative, technical, finance, marketing, and bring all of those together in a way that we're still relevant and we've still made something great at the end of this like 4 or 5 year project cycle. And it's a fun challenge, but I think it's something that isn't really going to go away, because if you make projects too short, that's where you get into that mediocrity and it's just copying what someone else did. And you're not really asking those critical questions of how can this experience help the immersive attraction industry? How can this make us all better? So
yeah, and it's hard. I mean, you said it, and you're exactly right. I mean, you can't. This is not. It's all so new that you do have to continually ask yourself if you're on the right track. You can't. So much of this and creativity is based on hunch and instinct and creativity, right? But you need to have the tools to be able to test yourself all the time and to pivot. And like you said, the challenge is that the industry is moving so quickly that if you don't do that, you're going to end up launching something that's going to look passé by the time you get it out the door. So it's not easy, and it's not just about good ideas. And unfortunately in life, most things aren't, right? The good idea is the start. It's the execution that really matters. And in this space, there's so many variables and so much learning still going on that it's challenging. But look where we are as an industry. I think we're on the right path. So I think that's the good news.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say are just some closing thoughts about the future of the industry?
Well, I think, at least in the United States here, and probably I would assume, parts of Europe, it's a tough economic time right now. You've got people who are, our consumers are pinched a bit. Certainly in the States, inflation, these kind of things, it adds up, right? So, as we look forward, I think a lot of this is being mature as a business, mature enough as business people, I should say, to be able to look at what's going on in the macro world and be able to adapt to those things as well. We can't just forge ahead and just say like, hey, it doesn't matter. People are going to still pay $75 a ticket for this thing. And, because it's so cool. It's like other industries. If people are hesitant to, fill up their car with gas because it's expensive, they're going to be hesitant to do other things, right? So I think we have to think as an industry about the macro conditions that are going on right now as we really focus on what our businesses are about, and kind of plow through what I think will be challenging financial times over the next, I don't know how long, year, hopefully, not much longer, but keep innovating and creating, at least, philosophically, is something that you can do no matter what, so I think we have to continually do that and continually push the bar higher and higher in terms of what it means to be, an entertainment offering in the experiential space. But we also have to be conscious of what our consumers are thinking. Don't ignore the reality on the ground, and I think we'll all be in good shape.
Yeah, it's really helping them understand the value proposition, because it's a decision of where to spend your money and how to spend your precious vacation time as well. So
Yes.
it's creating great things and also making sure people understand what it is that was created, and that can really make or break the adoption of especially a new experience where no one has a comparable for it.
That's right.
Dan, it has been such a pleasure getting to talk with you about all of this. I'm super excited. I loved visiting Area 15 last year, and I'm very excited for what you'll be adding in the future. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who has been watching, and please stay tuned in, because the winners of the Immersive Attraction Category Awards will be announced next. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
And now, the winners of the Immersive Attraction Innovation Awards 2023. Third place, Immersive Gamebox. Second place, EtherQuest, Kathmandu Park, Punta Cana from Falcons Beyond. First place, Hypersphere 360 from Attraction. Congratulations to all of the winners.